of traffic, sales, and profit. We help entrepreneurs do three things: drive more traffic, convert more sales, and grow the amount of profit in your businesses. We have another amazing interview for you today, right, as part of our TSP stimulus package. I know some of you saying, what in the world is your TSP stimulus package? I'll get to that in just a second. But in just a few minutes, right, we're going to be joined by my HR consultant. I always call it that because this is the person that we hire whenever we have any type of HR issue, any type of HR question, right? This is the first person we call. And we're always bringing her in because she is the expert in these situations. So I'm excited for you to get to meet her. If you never met her before, if you've been to one of the TSP game plan events, you probably have seen her take the stage. But we're going to get to that in just a minute. Like I said before, this is a special conversation we're having today as part of our TSP stimulus package. And if you guys are unfamiliar with what the TSP stimulus package is, you can see it on your screen right there. What we've devised is a 7-point plan to help keep you in business during these tough economic times. With so much going on with COVID-19, with the economy dropping, we want to make sure you are in a good place and that you are all straight with everything that you need to do. At the same time, what we've done during this 7-point package is we've given you, number one, daily updates with Dr. Joffrey Mount Varner. He is an ER doctor that is coming into the actual traffic, sales, and profit with Lamar Tyler Facebook group each day to answer your questions, because so many of you have questions about this illness, the pandemic, that you can't get answered. So we give you the ability to get those answered. We give you free business resources, videos, guides, checklists into the actual Facebook group to make sure you get a handle on everything you need. We're doing weekly business trainings such as this one to make sure you have all of the questions answered around your actual business, because not only do we want to make sure you survive through this thing, because all businesses won't, right? We want to make sure you not only survive, but that you actually thrive in the process. And we want to make sure you get the information to do that. We have weekly life trainings to help you kind of adjust to the changes we've had in life. Like, how do you make your food stretch? How do you make your money stretch? Different things like that. And three of the things I'm most excited about. Number 5, TSP Quick Cash Summit. We're doing a live online summit this Saturday, March the 28th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm bringing 7 of the top entrepreneurs and marketers that I know to talk about how you can make quick cash in your business, regardless of if you're just starting out or you have a 7-figure empire. These entrepreneurs are going to help you. Then number 6 and 7, beginning the first week of April, we're going to do grocery gift card giveaways where we want to help feed some families. So we had a gift card for every week from the week of April 1st all the way leading up to our June event, TSP Live in June, that is still on. We'll talk about that a little bit later. All the way up to TSP Live, we're giving away one every week. What happened is our TSP Mastermind, our group coaching program that lasts for 12 months, they heard about it. They got involved. So we've gone from 13 gift cards to now 30. So 30 families will help feed with our grocery store gift cards beginning the week of April 1st. And then beginning the week of April 1st as well, we have a $1,000 small business grant that we'll give out each week to a business in need. So stay tuned. Make sure you're engaged in the group. We'll have information on that for you guys to make sure you can take advantage of it. So do me a favor, right? If you can hear me, if you can see me, go ahead and drop a comment down below. I see you, Victoria. Thanks for joining in. I want to make sure we have no technical difficulties today, because we got a lot of nuggets that come your way, and I want to make sure you're able to grab each and every one of them. So without further ado, guys, I want to bring our guest in for today. Let me tell you a little bit about who she is. Delmar Johnson is the founder and president of HR Brain for Hire, a boutique HR services firm helping growing businesses build teams and create processes and systems to position them as employers of choice. With over 20 years of experience working with big corporations, small business owners, and new entrepreneurs, Delmar founded the brand HR Brain for Hire as a trusted and resourceful solution for growing businesses in need of affordable, efficient, and top-notch recruitment, training, and HR support services. I told y'all she's a beast, right? Delmar's personal story, which includes multiple layoffs, life changes, and her own dive into entrepreneurship, gives her a perfect mix of formal knowledge and real-life experience that she pours into each client and their unique needs. Delmar is the author the recently released book, HR is Sexy, Seasons of My Soul, also a life legacy through lessons learned in a dry place, co-author of 3 books, and is an Amazon bestseller, as well as nominated and recognized as a finalist in Indie Author Legacy Awards. Guys, please join me in welcoming into TSP, Ms. Delmar Johnson. Hey, Delmar, how's it going?
Hey, Lamar. Hey, TSP fam.
All right. So Delmar, I hit you up, and we're doing these weekly trainings, right? These additional weekly trainings as part of our TSP stimulus package. And I said, like the first person I got to have on is Delmar because there's so much going. I know your ears have been ringing.
Ooh.
People probably been blowing you up on social. They probably been ringing your phone because as entrepreneurs, if you got a team, if you're thinking about a team right now, we got questions. It's a lot. I mean, have you been busy? I'm assuming you have. Have you been busy?
I've gotten DMs. I've gotten invites to other people's groups. I have an interview after this one. So yeah, I've been asked several questions along the way in the last, 10 days or however long it's been.
Wow. So what, I'm curious before we get going, like what kind of questions have you been getting from people?
Um, how do I work with remote workers if I have to send them home? Am I required to send them home? Do I have to pay them while they're at home? You know, how long do I, allow them to work from home or stay home, and all those kind of questions, all the questions that small business owners and bigger business owners too are asking, because there's like, I don't have enough money, to pay them, or I don't have enough payroll budget to pay them. How long will I have to do this? So those type of questions that, can bring a little anxiety around all these changes that are going on.
That's good. Hey guys, if you're watching this, if you have those questions as well, I want to know. Do me a favor, let me know if any of those questions that Delmar just said resonate with you guys, because I know those are all the questions my wife Ronnie and I had as soon as we heard everything coming out. So Delmar, real quick before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about your background. Right, we heard a little bit about it when I read the bio, but how did you kind of
Sure.
get to this position in life where now you're the go-to HR consultant for brands such as ours?
Well, I've been in HR in some form of fashion the majority of my adult life. So just like 26 years. 26 years actually next month, if I'm going to celebrate an anniversary in it, in HR. And I started HR Brain for Hire as a result of what was going on in my own life. So I had to figure out a way to um, actually rebrand who I was, if you will, as an individual, because of things that had gone on in professional and personal life. So I had to figure out what was in my hands that I could still use without being in corporate America that would help someone else. And at that time, I was trying to figure out, okay, who's going to need this kind of help from me as an individual, as a consultant. And I said, I tapped into the entrepreneur world, because most of the time small business owners don't understand the importance of HR being a part of their overall plan. You have your marketing plan, you have your sales plan, you have your social media plans, but a lot of times the HR piece is left out. And here we are now, where HR telephones and DMs and emails are blowing up, because it's such an important thing. So in 2011, I thought of the concept of HR Brain for Hire. I got serious about it around 2013, 2014, to really connect with the entrepreneur world and see how I can bring my corporate experience into this world and be beneficial and valuable to that person who's not in the position to have an HR department. Most small businesses and micro businesses are not in the position to have an HR department, because it's such a huge overhead expense for smaller businesses. So having a consultant or a person that you can reach out to that only costs a fraction of what you would pay if you're paying for somebody that's being in your office and creating a whole HR department. So that's where I come in as HR Brain for Hire.
I love it, and I can vouch definitely. This is the exact reason that we hired Delmar in our own business, right? And she's done a stellar job. So I will make that known to you guys. She's done a stellar job. We highly recommend it. If you need a HR person or you have HR questions, right, go to Delmar. That's what I tell people all the time. Go to Delmar. All right, so Delmar, let's talk about some of the questions that people are coming to you with, because these are some of the same questions we had. Because of the pandemic and COVID-19 and how the government is trying its best to save the economy, I saw just this morning that unemployment is at the highest rate in decades, right? And we're not that far into this thing. Like it's been going on around the world for a while, but I feel like it just heated up here in the United States in the last 2 weeks. And
Exactly.
already tons of people out of jobs. So I get that the government is trying to do stuff, but I think what alarms and, like you said, stresses out all businesses, but especially small businesses, is when you hear things like, hey, of course, for the best interest of the employee, we want them to be able to take time off and go home. But, okay, am I going to have to pay somebody for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, right? And not to the fact that I don't want to pay them, but can I actually cover payroll for paying somebody that's not there when I need the actual job done? So is that the kind of things you're hearing? And then what kind of answers are you giving to folks?
Exactly. Well, there's so much. Let me preface this. There's
Okay.
so much information out there, and some of it is ambiguous, which is causing the fear and anxiety. It's even ambiguous to HR professionals because I've been talking to my HR cohorts too. It's like, what in the world are you guys seeing, and how are you guys answering these questions? And of course, we're pulling up information from the CDC, from WHO, from the IRS, those kind of more legitimate sites, to try to get answers to that. But there's certain things that you want to follow. So let's start with a particular theme, because we can be all over the place if we just kind of
Okay.
like just jump in there. So let's start with paid sick leave. Let's just start there, and then we can escalate from there.
Let's do
So
it.
so with paid sick leave, the goal is that, and this is emergency paid sick leave. Let me preface that too. Emergency paid sick leave is part of this Emergency Act. So the emergency paid sick leave say that you are to pay up to 80 hours if a person, first of all, has contracted the disease themselves or the virus themselves, because you don't want them to be in the office and be around anybody else exposing them to that. Or if they have a child that may unfortunately have contracted it, or if it is because of lack of childcare, because now schools are out across the nation. And for some, it is indefinite at this point. Graduations are being canceled and all this kind of stuff. So your children are at home. Now, up to 80 hours equates to like you paying them one paycheck. So it's not a continuous that you pay them 80 hours every 2 weeks. It's paid up to 80 hours. So you potentially are paying one paycheck. And I think a lot of people, when they heard that, and actually I got that revelation this morning before I even get on this call, it's like, okay, up to 80 hours mean that you may potentially have to pay out one full paycheck during this time frame versus, paying sick leave over and over and over, every 80 hours. So it's really up to 80 hours, because the incubation time, as they say, or quarantine time, is typically like a 14-day period after the person has been diagnosed or tested for the COVID-19 virus, or they have childcare that they're not able to cover because obviously childcare places are closed down too. Yeah. So the world is basically on a shutdown right now. So those are the type of stipulations that's going to require you to pay out a certain amount of money. Now, if you have hourly employees who are, having to work from home, right? Remote workers, but they're not necessarily working right now. You just kind of put on a standstill in your own business, trying to figure out things around all this emergency paid sick leave and FMLA. If they're not working as an hourly employee, then even by regular Fair Labor Standards Act law, they don't get paid. Okay. So if they're not working, they don't get paid. Okay. Now, salary exempt employees may work a little bit different, because you may actually have them doing some work as a remote worker. They will have to be paid, because if somebody is working and they have submitted project assignments or showing proof that they have worked on certain things that you're giving them, then obviously you're not going to ignore that. If they're working for you, then they need to be paid, especially if they're salary exempt. If they're hourly and you decide like that may be a non-essential position, then you're not going to pay them. You're just going to do potentially a temporary layoff. Now, at that time, the employee will have the opportunity to file unemployment. Okay, from my understanding, they're going to be waiving the wait period, because usually when you file for unemployment, it's usually like a two week wait period or something like that while they go through the system and things of that nature. The goal is to actually bypass and waive that, so it can be more of an emergency unemployment payout. And obviously, the goal is for this to be temporary when it's all said and done. Nobody's particularly looking that this would be 4, 5, 6 months down the road. At least me personally, it's like I just need it to be over with. But we're not looking that it's going to be potentially that long.
Hey, Delmar, I got a
Okay, so
question. I wanted to
yeah,
ask you
sure.
about unemployment because something we had recently saw, just like today or yesterday, they were talking about
Hmm.
unemployment. They were talking about, like I said, people being able to actually get unemployment faster, and they said that employers, if you want to make it easier for your people, that you can actually file unemployment for them, and that would even speed up the process, even more. Have you heard that, or does that sound right?
I have not seen that personally, but that doesn't
Okay.
mean that it's not out there. Like
Okay.
I said, there's a lot of information out there that I've been deciphering through in the last week. Because think of this: this is Thursday, right? The act itself just passed the Senate a week ago today that we're talking about right now. So can you imagine all the information and the flood of information that has come out in the past 7 days that people are still trying to catch up with or absorb? Because over the next couple of weeks, as this act really goes into effect, probably even more information is going to come out. So my goal now in communicating with people is to just try to give you some insight on some things, even if we don't have all the answers yet, because there's going to be more questions and probably more answers, and hopefully more specific answers from legislation about how some of this stuff is going to be working. Right now, there's an overview of what that act is, or what that emergency act is that just went into that was just approved again and went through the Senate just a week ago. So some of this stuff can be again ambiguous, but the goal is to try to get some insight on what potentially is going to be happening. So
I
all
love
the answers is not 100%. Hopefully they're at least 80%. We'll catch up with the other 20% as legislation put more stuff out.
I love it. I love it. Hey guys, if you're just joining us, my name is Lamar Tyler, creator and founder of Traffic Sales and Profit. Today I'm joined here by Delmar Johnson, who is the president and founder of HR Brain for Hire, the actual HR consultancy that we use in our own business, right? And it helped us, transition our employees to W-2, to help us with our employee handbook, to help us anytime we got like a touchy situation with staff and team members. So I'm telling y'all, Delmar is the truth, right? And I like to point that out to y'all too. When it's people I literally spend my money with, I'm letting you know that, hey, like these is not just somebody I met on the street. I didn't see Delmar say something catchy on Instagram. So I said, you know what? Like I love her hashtags all the time. Let me bring her on. Like this is somebody I trust enough in my own business. So you guys should trust her with yours as well. All right, so Delmar, we got a question. If you mind, let's take a
Okay.
question and we'll jump back into it.
Okay.
Victoria said, and let me actually, I'll pull this up so we can do it. Victoria said, a question: those face masks I'm making are landing on the front page. So she's making actual face masks
Oh, okay.
that people can use and put on their face. Local companies are asking to partner with her as sponsors. So they can remain relevant. This means I can create jobs for sewers now. How do I makeshift my sewers for the huge need now? What do you mean by makeshift, Victoria? I'm not sure if you can drop
Yeah.
something else. Let
Okay.
us know what you mean by how can you makeshift. So I don't know if that means like you need like just kind of temporary help that you don't want to hold on to for a while, or you got something else in mind. But let us know that, and we will come back to that question in just
Okay.
a second. So Delmar, I want to make sure while we're waiting for Victoria to come back with that.
Hmm.
So did you kind of cover everything that you wanted to cover around the FMLA and the changes and different things?
Well, actually, that was paid sick leave, because
Okay,
FMLA is a
basically,
different
yes.
conversation. Something else I wanted to encourage small business owners with is that the money that you may potentially have to pay out to your W-2 employees because of the emergency paid sick leave is actually going to be 100% reimbursable. So you will actually get that money back through tax credit, through payroll tax credit. I'm not a tax expert, so I'm not even going to talk about taxes. However, that you will be paid 100% reimbursement for paid leave pursuant to this act. So what does that mean? I'm actually looking at my notes because I got two computers up. It's like health insurance costs are also included in the credit. If you provide health insurance right now, you may not. Employers face no payroll tax liability. And then even self-employed individuals receive an equivalent credit. I don't know what that equivalent credit is at this point for self-employed, but that's part of the 100% reimbursement that the act is going to allow for employees to receive back. And of course, they got plenty of like mathematical examples of what that potentially looks like. And then there's also a cap on what is going to be paid out on the leave part, and we can move into that sector. We can move into that part as far as the Family Leave Act. I will put this caveat on there. Typically, the Family and Medical Leave Act requires you to have at least 50 employees. What's ambiguous about this emergency FMLA, me and as well as some of my HR cohorts are not necessarily clear on if it applies to employees with 50 employees or to any employee. That's the part that I really want to find out specifics on. It's like, because the regular FMLA requires you to have at least 50 employees, and most small business owners don't have 50 employees. On average, statistically, most of them don't have the 50 employees. So that is something that I definitely want to get clear as far as the Emergency Family Leave Act. But whatever money is paid out under this act is going to be capped for a certain amount of days. For instance, it's $511 is the cap per day to be paid out under the leave if you're out sick because you're sick as the individual, as the employee. If you're caring for a child or someone in your family, maybe a husband or a spouse or something like that, that is ill, then that's going to be capped at $200 a day. So obviously, if you're taking care of yourself, you get paid more, but you're capped out. There's a daily cap out of how much you are required to pay out to that employee when they go out on leave. And there's certain circumstances on the leave side, on the family leave side, that you have to meet. I'm gonna pull those up because there's several things you need to keep in mind about if they go out on leave. These are some of the things that have to be in place, all right, or have to be verified, if you will. If an employee is subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation, well, basically, we're all under quarantine right now.
Exactly.
Okay. So number one, if they're advised by a healthcare provider that they have contracted and come in contact with COVID-19, then obviously they're going to be quarantined even more. When experiencing symptoms of COVID and seeking medical diagnosis, sometimes you can have the symptoms, but not necessarily you hadn't been tested yet. And to my knowledge, and just from friends that have been DMing me about, they think they have it and they're not able to get tested, that disturbs me right there as an individual. It's like, why is it so hard in some certain areas to get tested? But that's something hopefully you'll be able to pursue in whatever city or area that you're in. Obviously, when you're caring for a child care is unavailable. Schools are out everywhere. So that's part of the requirement as far as the Leave Act is concerned. And then when you're experiencing substantial similar conditions as specified by the Health and Human Services Office. So those type of stipulations is how you to use the Emergency Family Leave Act to determine if that person should be given that time away from work. Hopefully everybody will stay as healthy as possible, stay quarantined, follow the rules as best as you can. Obviously people may get sick along the way, but those circumstances can only be dealt with once that actually happens. So I was talking to Ronnie the other day, Lamar, because I'm helping you guys right now with some communication pieces and everything. And all of you guys are healthy. I said, yes, rah, rah, shishumba. It's like, I hope everybody, stays healthy in the TSP fam, but we still need to be aware of this information that is out there. And again, it can be overwhelming. It's overwhelming to me. And I'm used to reading this kind of stuff. So I can imagine someone, my fellow entrepreneur, fellow small business owners, just trying to find out, okay, what applies to me, what doesn't apply to me. So as we continue over the current, over the next days and everything, I'm always dropping nuggets in the TSP fam group. So as I gain more clarity and more answers, I will drop those nuggets in the group so we can all know at the same time.
Thank you so much, Delmar. We definitely appreciate that. I'm sure everyone watching appreciates it as well. Because like I said, like this is what I want you guys that are watching to be able to kind of get a hold of and to be able to focus on is the fact that you still have to run your business. So with all these different things happening, all these different changes coming down the pipe, from SBA to changes with FMLA to, just dealing with your teams and staff already, you still have to be selling stuff. You still got to be making money. You still got to keep the lights on. You still got to keep your customers happy. So, I definitely could recommend if you can, hire somebody like a Delmar, or Delmar itself probably definitely do it. If not, if your business is not there yet, hey, just make sure you're tuned into the group. If Delmar says she's gonna drop nuggets and share with us like she always does, make sure you're there to catch every single last one of them. And don't let them slip through your fingers is all I can say, because this stuff is important. Hey, if
Can I say
anybody
one
has,
more?
yeah,
Go
real
ahead.
quick. While you're
Yeah.
doing that, though, if anybody has questions, go ahead. You can feel free to drop those questions down into the chat. We will jump into those as well as we keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Delmar.
Let me say one more thing because I don't know if I said it, but I may be repeating myself, but that's all right. Some of this stuff need to be repeated. Um, there can be small business exemption if you're less than 50 employees from paying out the sick leave at all, especially if your business is, more of a micro business, and can jeopardize you potentially closing your doors for good. So those are exemptions that can be in place for small business owners less than 50, and it will go through the Department of Labor. Department of Labor is one that has the authority to grant those exemptions. So that's something that you want to keep in mind as well. If you know it's going to be causing undue or extreme financial burden, then that's potentially you can be exempted from paying out the sick leave. And like I said, the Department of Labor is going to have that authority to make that exemption.
Okay. I love it. I love it. And let me come back to the question we had originally from Victoria.
Okay.
She did come back and add more.
Okay.
Because she was saying, I guess everything's kind of blowing up, right? Local companies want to partner with her as sponsors. They can remain relevant. It means she can create jobs for other people to sow right now. And what she's basically saying is that she has people that want to sow for her, but she doesn't know how to hire them when everything else is going on. And she's looking to create a team for the future by solidifying a local team now. So I guess she's trying to, use this as an opportunity to kind of, lock in and get great people now so she can grow this team in the future. And she's working remotely with them now so that she can, like I said, retain them for the future. So any advice for somebody like Victoria that maybe sees an opportunity now, could maybe bring
Yeah.
people on, probably don't want to get in over her head at the same time? Like, how does she manage all of this?
Okay. Well, grateful Victoria for having these options and opportunities. This is great. Now, This is my suggestion that because you're working with them remote anyway, I would set it up as like temporary contractors with potential to be hired. So my suggestion would be that you put that in documentation. I'm always big on documentation, and that could be an independent contractor agreement where they sign it. Obviously, if remote, you can obviously, have signatures done remotely on the contract form through all kind of various platforms that allow you to do electronic signatures. So I would set it up as temporary independent contractors now because they're working remote anyway. So they're working on their particular time slots that they're able to sew the mask. Is that what she's doing? Is that what Victoria's doing? Sewing masks
Yes,
and those
yes,
type of things?
correct.
Okay. So that's how I would suggest setting it up right now in order to secure them to continue working with you and sewing the mask and everything that you guys are doing. So that would be my initial suggestion. Set it up where you have documentation of who those remote workers are and that they're doing these specific deliverables for your business at this time. And then that way, once you've collected their information and have them sign off on the independent contract agreement, then you're able to, have further communications to them. It's like, depending on how well this goes over the next, 6 weeks or however long you're going to be, doing the mask for healthcare providers and for everybody, then that's how I would suggest that you immediately set it up and then have the conversation that you potentially want to hire them on as more long-term, maybe part-time employees or something of that nature after this immediate run happens. Does that make sense?
All right, I think it does. Victoria, let us know down in the actual comments as we keep moving along. All right, so Delmar, and while we wait for some other questions, guys, you got questions, drop them in. Lamar Tyler, creator and founder of Traffic Sales and Profit, here today with Delmar Johnson, founder and president of HR Brain for Hire. And like I said, this is the HR firm we use. If you need somebody, use Delmar. Don't overcomplicate the process. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk real quick because you mentioned it a little bit about work from home. And Victoria said that was wonderful, priceless information, Delmar. That's what Victoria just said.
Okay. Awesome.
Let's talk about people work home because a lot of people, right, maybe have never had staff or employees work from home. They may have been in the office just doing their thing, and now
Yep.
out of the blue, right? And it came quick, Delmar. Like I don't. Well, maybe it didn't come quick. To me, it felt like it came quick. But
Yeah.
luckily, like we've had experience with people kind of working from home, and our staff, from time to time they got stuff going to kids, they work from home, so it wasn't a big change for us. But a lot of companies, this is like a complete total opposite of how they work day to day, right? Have you seen like a lot of conversation about work from home, about what do we do? How can I make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do? Do I need policies in place? Do people need policies in place? Let's talk about this a little bit, Delmar.
Definitely. That's one of the top three questions I've been asked, Lamar, over the past, week or so about remote workers. And for the most part, it's kind of a split. Like you guys at Tyler New Media and other companies that have been my clients before, I know are in the position to be able to have remote workers. But like you said, a large part of people who may have physical locations and had their employees come in because they like them being on site and everything are not used to remote workers. So they're probably pulling their hair out at this time about, okay, what needs to go on? How do I need to communicate with them and those kind of things? So that is one of the top three questions that I've been asked. So whether you're used to remote workers or you're not used to remote workers, the important thing is actually to define how you're going to communicate with them, how often you're going to communicate with them, what expectations are you expecting from them as remote workers? Are those expectations different than when they worked in the office, or are they the same, but they're just in a different location? They're at home or wherever they're working at as far as remote is concerned. Will they have to submit, certain assignments or whatever through your team, platform, whether it's Teamwork, Trello, it's all kind of platforms out there that you can actually keep up with your team and have them communicate to you that way. Are you going to communicate through those team platforms? Are you going to communicate, through email, through text messaging, or a combination of all of those? It doesn't have to be just one way to communicate. It's so many things. I was looking at my notes here. It's like it's even will you prohibit employees from meeting together during a certain period? Are you going to prohibit them from meeting with third parties and maybe doing other business on the side while they're working on your business? So it's a long list, and I can actually drop that information as a nugget today inside the group too. That's a long list of questions that you'll want to ask yourself to get in position. Now, it's not necessarily required that you have a remote policy, but coming from Delmar, HR Break for Hire, I'm going to suggest that you do. Okay. I'm going to suggest that you have something in writing as a guideline, even if you just want to call it a guideline and not necessarily some new policy that you may not, adhere to after all of this is over with. But you want to have some kind of remote work guideline of what it is that you expect, how often they need to check in, when do you need to turn in assignments, or when do you need to document, and how will you need to document what it is that you're doing. Will you prohibit, your workers from working outside the home again, at coffee shops, at co-working spaces and those type of things, or do you want them to be at home? So there's a lot of questions and things that you would need to think about in the remote working guidelines or policies, whichever language that you want to use with that, because again, it is very new to a lot of small business owners out there who particularly had a physical location anyway and had people on site. It can be done, but if you're just scrambling right now, I implore you to just kind of stop. Just kind of stop and think about a few things and begin to write that down. Obviously, I'm available for those services to help you with that, so you won't feel such anxiety around that, and help you craft that if you need that kind of help. But you're going to have to take the time to just be still long enough to actually write some things down and think out some things about how it should work with those employees that you've had to send home, due to this whole mandate of quarantining.
Hey, Delmar, while we talk about that just a second, you mentioned if they need the help, if they need resources, they can just kind of come with you. Let's just take a second to talk about how they actually can work with you. Somebody sees this and they said, all right, this is as complicated as I thought it was. Because sometimes stuff look complicated, but then you're like, oh, this ain't that bad. I think this really literally is that bad. And as we know, and we talk about often, you've talked about often with Game Plan, employment and employment law and policies is not something you should really play around with. So how can somebody get in contact with you if they want to explore working with you or find out more about what you got or get a hold of your resources or your book or, whatever that may be, what's the easiest way for them to reach out?
The easiest and simplest way is to just simply go to my website, and you can go to delmarjohnson.com, and you can submit an inquiry about what kind of help that you need. And you can do it straight from that site. And once you submit an inquiry, I get notification that you sent it, and you fill out the questions that are there. You can put down as much details as you would want me to know about the kind of help that you need, because I have a section on there on the inquiry form for that. You submit that, I get notification of that, and then I reach out to you to see how we can set up a telephone call. So that's the easiest way to do it and more efficient way to do it. So delmarjohnson.com, and just submit an inquiry from directly from my website.
All right, guys. So that was pretty straightforward. So you should get a hold of Delmar. It tells you how to get kind of right into it and jump into it. If you got any additional questions, make sure you drop them down below. Again, if you're just tuning in, my name is Lamar Tyler, creator and founder of Traffic Sales and Profit. Here today with my HR consultant, Delmar Johnson. Her company is HR Brain for Hire, and I highly recommend you get a hold of her to help you be guided through all of these new policies around, like we said, sick leave, FMLA we talked about today, work from home policies and procedures. And I love the part where Delmar talks about just have something in place, right, in writing as a guideline. I say, if you take away one thing from the day, I really felt like that was one of the biggest takeaways that you can do, is to have something in place in writing as a guideline. Awesome. So Delmar, before we wrap for the day, any last words, anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yes. Don't get scared. We're all going to make it through this. If you have questions, just ask, because TSP fam know I'm going to answer your questions. Just ask, and then just really, again, take the time to think about what's going on with you right now, with remote workers, with, how are you going to address, the payout that you may have to pay out for paid sick leave, or put people on the Family Leave Emergency Act. But the goal is to just really don't get so overwhelmed and then don't reach out to try to get that help. So don't get so overwhelmed and then it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, when you have plenty access to resources that can help you, plenty access to me, obviously, to answer any kind of question. Help me with the answers. So don't be afraid to ask. We're all going to make it through. It is temporary. I don't believe it's going to last. It's not going to last forever, but it is a time that you really need to think about what it is that you may not have in place right now. I was telling this to somebody the other day, Lamar. I said, this is the perfect time to begin to implement or have your policies and those type of things created. If you still have employees, but you're kind of float around having policies in place. Crises is always, especially national crises, is always a perfect time to go back and assess what you don't have that would apply to being in compliance with policies and employee relations issues and team and people issues that have come up as a result of this crisis. So this is always the perfect time to go back and look. Do you have standard operating procedures in place, and do you have policy, at least your standard policies in place? That way you won't have to start from the beginning when we potentially may go through another national crisis. So this is the perfect time to assess what it is you have, what it is you don't have, what needs to be updated, or what needs to be created from scratch.
I love it, y'all. So, y'all, Delmar, now is the time for you to take advantage of it, to jump on it, to make it happen. If you did not have it in place before, you have no excuse, right, not to get it in place now, and to get what you need. Like all those people that said, one day I'm going to get to it, and I know I need to have this. I've heard Delmar before and TSP talking about this. Now is the time for you to make it happen and to get it into place. Delmar, again, I want to thank you for joining us today, right? I want to thank everybody for watching. Before everyone tunes off and before we close out, it is one thing I wanted to share with you guys. That is that we are still on for TSP Live in June. TSP Live is our 2-day hands-on boot camp, right? A majority of the tickets are sold for. We do have a few left before we end up and wrap up our early bird tickets part before ticket prices go up. We do want you to get a hold of your ticket because there's not a lot left. We do want you still to reserve your hotel room because there are not a lot left in the room block. And for some reason, if things change or if things don't change, right, what's going on, and we have to slide the date and move the date, we'll definitely keep you informed of that. We'll give you regular communication leading up to it. But I did want to make sure that you did not waiting to see what happened. And then once everything clears up, because this will clear up, this will pass. It's just a matter of if not if it will, right, but just when. We don't want you to be left out and not be able to get a hold of what you need to get a hold of. If you do not know what TSP Live is, let's take a look at it.
Hey, I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is run money marathons. I got money on my mind. I'm just trying to get some dough. I ain't picking up my line unless it's money on the phone. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is blood money marathon. You can catch me with a dime piece. Me and the money inside me. Diamonds in my timepiece. Diamonds in my timepiece. Yeah. Gotta get it on the daily. All I want is dubs. You know what I'm on. I've been chasing after paper. All I know is blood money marathon.
All right, so that is it. TSP Live, the most amazing event you've ever found in the world for African-American entrepreneurs here in Atlanta. We are still on and popping. Like I said, if something changed, you'll be the first to know. But I want you to get a hold of one of these last tickets before they are no longer available. Again, we want to thank our guest for the day, Delmar Johnson. And we want to let you guys know we will be back. Make sure you're in the group. Add your friends and family here in the group because we'll be back bringing you amazing content, amazing training, amazing experts to help you get through this period. It's only a period, right? This will not last forever. There's only a period. We're here to help you get through it. We're leaving no business behind. That's what our TSP stimulus package is all about. And that's what this community is all about. Thank you guys for joining us today. And we'll see you back here inside the group or on our Facebook pages, our YouTube channels, and everywhere else, providing you with more content that'll help you drive more traffic, convert more sales, grow the amount of profit, and keep you in business during this COVID-19 crisis, the economy crash, anything else that'll come in. Guess what? We're still going to be here. We're not just surviving. We will be thriving. Thank all of y'all for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.